welcome to my channel. For today's video, I am going to be ranking 14 of the most recent eyeshadow palettes that I tried in the month of November, from the worst to the best. A couple of these I tried a little bit before November because the last rankings that I did wasn't too long ago. That one was more themed around holiday launches, so stuff that didn't really fit into the holiday launches I've carried into this month's, and I'll share with you which ones those are. But yeah, I mean, we have 14. We have a good amount to review, so let's go ahead and get into it. Number 14, the one I'm looking at. Truthfully, it's not the worst quality-wise palette in this bunch, but it is definitely the most disappointing to me and one of the biggest downgrades from the brand that I've experienced. So my least favorite palette that I tried this month was the Hey Reindeer palette from Odin's Eye. And if you're a follower of mine who regularly watches these videos that I do, you know when Odin's Eye launches a palette, it is always at the tippity top. And this is the first time that these palettes simply are not. Now this palette in particular, I've gotten a few very pretty pastel looks, but there's something different about the quality in these palettes. Some are a little patchy. Some of the shimmers, they don't have the same bang on the eyelid. They lack pigment. A lot of redundancy because they lack pigment. So overall, like quality-wise, it's not a terrible palette, but it also isn't a good palette. And especially for Odin's Eye, who is consistently ranking at the very top of my favorites, the quality seems really downgraded with this one. And this is the first time I've really ever said that about Odin's Eye, because I felt like with every launch they were getting better and better. And I feel like they took 5 steps back with this palette. Also, color story wise, I don't know, I feel like it's just not very intuitive. I'm not in love with it. It's a little random with the colors here. So that is why I'm ranking it as the worst palette that I tried this month. And like I said, it technically isn't the worst in quality, but I definitely have a lot of things that have disappointed me about it. Number 13, I actually did a look that I love with, but the quality on here, it was a bit of a struggle. So this is the Essence Dancing Green eyeshadow palette. I went to an Essence event earlier in the month, and so I wanted to do a full face of Essence. So I pulled this guy out. If you aren't familiar with these eyeshadows, they are one of the cheapest that you can get. They are $3.99. However, I really think that they do perform that way. Now, these you can absolutely get a stunning look with, but it took a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of blending for me to get it to work. So if you're experienced with eyeshadow and you're balling on a budget, this is a good option to get. But if you aren't as experienced with application, you are not going to have, at least in my experience, I don't think it's just the easiest time using and blending. So as long with the shimmers, as you wet the brush, you are going to get a nice impact on the eyelid. And the mattes, they take a lot of finagling with, but you can get there with that. But overall, I just don't love the quality of this, unfortunately, so that's why it's at 13. Number 12, this one has actually been in my palette rankings drawer for a while, more than just a month, and the reason being was because I wasn't using it. I wasn't reaching for it, and that just goes to tell you why it should rank so low. I didn't really want to grab for it. It's not necessarily a bad palette, but this is from Glossier. It's their Monochrome's Essential Eyeshadow Trio in Prairie, which is very pretty. You get a really simple look with this, but nothing about Glossier's quality stands out. It's kind of middle of the road. It's not hard to use by any means. It's nice, soft, buttery. The look on the eyelid is really simple to get, but it's just not a palette that I'm inclined to reach for. I'm not in love with the look of it, but like I said, it's not a bad palette. I just didn't want to use it, so that's why it's ranking so low. And I just like a disclaimer, some people don't like the way I do my rankings. This is all based on my personal opinion. So of course, color story, how often I use it, and quality are all factors of what goes into these rankings. But I do mention each reason why it's ranking where it's ranking. So just because it's good quality doesn't mean it's going to rank towards the top. If I don't like the colors in it, I'm not going to put it towards the top. Anyways, number 11 is the Snow Dream palette from Odin's Eye. I had a little bit of a better time with this palette than the Hey Reindeer palette, but again, something's off, something's missing, but I do just in general like the color story a little bit more. I think it's a very unique Christmas themed color story, and there's a lot more versatility in here. The colors aren't going to get as muddy with this if you're not familiar with color theory. I like this one a lot more. Again, something's a little bit off with it. It's not my favorite color story anyways from Odin's Eye, but I definitely enjoy this one a lot more. Number 10 is a luxury eyeshadow quad from YSL. You're going to see a few of these coming up in the next few choices here. So this is the Couture Mini Clutch in 200. And this one is just a bland color story to me more than anything. I really love the quality of these eyeshadows. There were 4 that came out. I have a whole review on my channel if you want to see all of them in action. Love the quality of all of these. They are the example of what I want a luxury eyeshadow to be. Easy to blend, a great formula for all ages, buildable, you can get the level of pigmentation that you want, and there's a pretty glimmery shade as well. I will say I've had a lot of you say that this formula has given you a lot of fallout. Personally, I haven't noticed that, but that is something to keep in mind with such an expensive purchase. It's ranking as my least favorite of the 4 because I care the least about this color story, but the quality is still there. Number 9 is actually the palette that I have on my eyelids today. So this is from Fantasy Cosmetica. This is the Warlock palette. So you can see I got a fun green look with this. Fantasy Cosmetica is an amazing indie brand, and I can tell with each launch they are improving their products and the quality of the products more and more. The reason why this is more towards the middle is just because it's not a color story that I'm going to reach for a lot, but if you're vibing with the color story here, you're going to love the quality. So to get today's look, I started off with the shade Packed right here, and I just used that as my crease color and blended that out. Now this shade lacks a little bit of pigment, I'm not gonna lie, but it does make the shade a lot more approachable because it can be intimidating. And then on the outer half of my eyelid, I went in with the shade Profane. Now this one is quite pigmented. It's a very vibrant color, and it did translate to my eyelid without having to have a white base underneath. So that was great. And then for depth, I went into Occult right here, and I just blended that into the outer corner. I do think that this can overblend a little bit, so do be careful of that, but I still really like it. And then all over my lid, I have Ritual. The shimmers in here are incredible. I think that Fantasy Cosmetica is onto something, and I can't wait to see the brand grow some more. But like I said, you know, the brand does do a little bit more grungy, deep, smoky color stories that are a little bit outside of my comfort zone, so I'm not reaching for them as much because of that reason. But I can't fault the quality. They did a really nice job. Number 8, we have the next YSL Mini Couture Clutch Quad. This is the shade 300. Again, I really like this color. I feel like this color story is a little bit more versatile than the other one because you get a light tone matte, a mid-tone matte, a deep tone matte, and then that glitter. It's an easy look that you don't have to think about, and same thing with the quality. The mattes blend beautifully. They pretty much blend themselves, and the shimmer is great. Color story is why this fell where it fell. Here is a palette that has also been in my drawer for a while. Not because I haven't been using it, but mostly because it just hasn't fit in with the themes of my palette rankings. So this is number 7. This is from Viseart, and it's the one that I used the least of all of these Fleurette palettes because these are interesting. They have 2 blushes and then 4 eyeshadows. I liked the other color stories better. However, I think the quality on this is phenomenal. These are great for travel. You can get a really cohesive look with these palettes without having to think about it. So this one is the more warm colored one, which the other ones were more purpley, so I reached for those more than this one. This one definitely gives more summer vibes as well, but the quality is really great, and it's good to get a look that you don't have to think about. The packaging, super compact, great for travel. But that's just where this one fell. Love the quality of it, but not necessarily the most exciting launch, but definitely super practical. Number 6 is not one that I've talked about too much, but it is a pickup that I made during the Sephora sale earlier last month. So this is the mini eyeshadow palette from ABH. It's their Soul Chew one. They also did a mini Modern Renaissance. I didn't pick that one up, but I've always loved the Sultry palette, it's always been one of my favorites. The one thing, not that this matters too much, about the packaging that I would have liked is if they made the packaging a little bit more of a true representation of how the big palette originally was, aka the front was glittery. I wish it had that glitter, but this is my ideal color story. If you needed to create the perfect neutral palette, it's going to look something like this for me, more on the cooler tone neutrals. The shimmers here are really metallic. It has a nice black in here, which I love to use as eyeliner, a really deep dark brown. So this is just a great curation of colors that I love. I think they did a good job of narrowing down the original colors in the Sultry palette and putting it into a compact little 9-pan palette. And from what I can tell, the quality is just as beautiful as the original palette. So while these are not necessarily new shades to me because I do have the fuller size, I've been messing around with this. I like having it in a compact form, fresh new formula in age, so we love that. Now these top 5, you guys, they're stunning. So let's start off with number 5, but it kind of ties with number 4. So both of them, 4 and 5, are the new Viseart palettes that just came out. So in 5th place, I put this one, but it depends on the day, the outfit I'm wearing, you know. So this is the Cashmere Charmeuse palette. My fingers are so dry and disgusting. I need to lotion them. Beside the point. So, love the quality of these, and I really do feel like Viseart is improving on their shimmer formula. The thing with both of these palettes is these aren't special to Viseart. They've had these colors before. However, as the palette stands alone, it's a beautiful palette, wonderfully curated, phenomenal quality, phenomenal packaging, just really utilizes every centimeter of space here to make it perfect for traveling and having the most amount of colors without having to waste any space. Makeup artists as well. So I really like this color. It kind of reminds me of like a Swiss chocolate, but a little bit more cooler toned kind of palette. Really beautiful. And then at number 4, let's take a quick look over at Violette Vespertine. I put this at number 4 because it's the more purple leaning one, but Cashmere Charmeuse is also, you know, so this one is definitely more purpley. They both do look quite similar. This one obviously leans more towards that purpley family, but it's really nice how monotone this is, but the shades still are different from one another. So the thing with these Viseart palettes is while they might not be the most exciting to me, I cannot deny the phenomenal quality on these, and I do love these color stories. So the only thing that's disappointing, if you will, to me is that these aren't exciting for what Viseart has already launched. Number 3, I traveled with this all of last week. I've been loving a lighter nude simple eye. I've been wearing a lot more simple makeup lately, other than today obviously, but this is, I talked about this in my favorites. This is the Clio Napping Cheese palette. It's from their Pro Eye Palette line, and the name, as random as she is, okay, it's adorable because there's paw prints on here from cats, a cheese embossment, and it came with a sticker of a cat literally taking a nap with a block of cheese. I can't make this up, people. I don't know who thought of it. But it makes me smile. And this is the Ultimate Nude Eyeshadow Palette. This I did receive to do a sponsorship with, but I'm mentioning this completely organically because I think the quality on here is really soft, easy to blend, but a little bit more on the buildable pigment side. Now the colors in here, it doesn't have much depth, so you're not going to get a ton of it, but these can build up a little bit, and then with all K-Beauty shadows, they create the best shimmers. Like, they do such a good job with their glimmery, shimmery shades, and these are very easy to lightly build up and layer. Just overall, a great quality palette. And if you've been looking for a lighter nude eyeshadow palette because you haven't been as into deep eyeshadow days like myself, this is the Ultimate Nude palette. Okay. Number 2 and 1, talked about these in my favorites as well. I was absolutely taken, if you can't already tell, by the YSL Couture Mini Clutch eyeshadows. So 1 and 2 are the final 2 that I tried. Again, when it comes to these luxury shadows, they hit the nail right on the head for what I'm looking for. It had been a while since I purchased a luxury, not that I purchased these, you guys know I got a PR, but it's been a while since I've tried a super luxury house brand eyeshadow quality that I actually felt was kind of worth the money. I took a break from brands like Tom Ford and Dior because every time I was getting an eyeshadow palette from them, I was like, it's just not worth it. These, I don't want to say it in this economy, right? They're not worth it. But if I had tried these in like 2019, you know? So number 2 is the 100 shade, which is in that family of taupey, cooler toned neutrals that I love. And this shade right here is more of a satin as opposed to a matte. Just a color story that I love. I've already talked about my feelings towards those kinds of neutrals. And then number 1 is the one that's been selling out online. So if you see it in stock, just know there's a little bit of a battle to get your hands on the number 400, which is like Babylon Roses, I believe is the name of it. It's the rosy one, and it really creates the most effortless, elegant, rosy eye. As somebody who's more into the taupey tones, it's a big deal that I'm pulling the rosy shade over it in terms of favorites because they just did a really good job. Now this one's a little different. It has 2 reflective shades, and maybe that's why I like it so much, and then 1 satiny matte, and then this one is also satiny matte, but there are some glitter particles in there. The most effortless, easy to get rosy eye. I really need to stop talking about those YSL shadows, but they really stole my heart. They have. So there we have it. Those are my eyeshadow palettes that I tried in the last month, plus a few others, from worst to best. If you tried any of these palettes, let me know. Have I convinced you to purchase the YSL quads, and what did you think? Feed my ego here. Did you love it? And if you didn't, I'm very sorry. I'm sorry, but I was telling my truth. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys, have a good one.